You're listening to the Movement is Medicine Show, a podcast hosted by Head to Toe Spine and Sports Therapy, a modern chiropractic and manual therapy practice in Edmonds, Washington. Now, let's get into the show. Welcome, everybody. What's happening?
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We got Dr. Annie, Dr. Tim, Dr. Lee in the house. And today we're talking about a very interesting and I would dare say cutting edge approach to nutrition and our body's response, our muscle response, that we're calling nutrition response testing. And it's something I don't know anything about. So I am super pumped today to learn about this and understand how it's beneficial. I'm looking forward to get this nutrition response testing myself. So what basically is it? And then we'll get into how it helps.
So it's just a pretty new protocol that Dr. Tim and I went to a seminar a couple weeks ago. We really enjoyed it, and we tried the protocol ourselves. It worked really effectively to help us with our overall well-being. And essentially what we're doing here is we're using applied kinesiology-like techniques where we're using muscle tests. We're introducing stressors into a system and seeing how the body reacts. So nutritional response. It could be food toxins. It could be chemicals. It could be different microbes like bacteria, fungus, virus. It is flu season, so a fair amount of people probably react to some of this stuff. It can even go on to testing you for heavy metal toxicity or like any chemical stuff. So if something's like irritating you, like maybe a soap or a fragrance in like your dish detergent or something like that, we can test for things just like that as well. So for overall well-being, like if you're feeling like you're kind of in like a brain fog or you're fatigued all the time, or it's not necessarily something that's lining up with like an ankle hurting or a shoulder hurting. It could be something a little more systemic. We really like doing this nutritional testing, identifying the stressors, eliminating them, and then supporting the organs so that they can function properly.
Yeah. And I mean, we're calling it nutrition response testing, but we're really testing for various things that could be affecting the body, causing stress within the body. And like Lee was saying, using very simple supplements such as like herbs and everything like that to address the certain systems in the body, certain organs in the body that are under stress, getting them to function better, and then overall helping you to function better.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. Basically, what we're saying is, hey, your body is this closed system, so there could be stuff that's going on in that system that's going to show up in other places, like your muscles and your nervous system and how you respond to various tests that we can do into those muscles and nervous systems, and that it basically can tell us if there are nutritional deficiencies or if there's other maybe toxic elements involved. It can kind of point us in the direction of understanding some deeper, more broader, more maybe even more complex interplay. There's maybe stuff that's going on with the hormones, maybe stuff that's going on with maybe vitamin imbalances or more micronutrient deficiencies, because all that shows up in how our muscles function and how our nervous system functions.
Absolutely.
Am I understand that correctly?
Yep. Yeah. Because these things are ultimately going to cause inflammation. And inflammation, we know, is systemic. You can get inflammation in a local area, like say you get punched in the shoulder and it hurts. Like that's local inflammation. But general inflammation could be something as simple as like you ate sugar and sugar doesn't agree with your body's constitution, and that causes your whole body to become inflamed. So now you have joint pain. Your doctor told you have arthritis, when realistically you're just eating something that's irritating you, causing some pain, causing some inflammation. And you probably just need to nix that from your diet to go right back to being healthy and living freely and happily.
I think it's really interesting thinking about like the testing for this protocol. We've talked about this a little bit because I think both of you had to help me understand it more. And I think for anyone who wants to embark on this path and get the nutritional response testing done, it's really important to understand that we're not testing muscular strength.
No.
And I think what you'll find too, if you're being tested against a substance that your body is negatively testing for or unhappy with, your muscles simply give away. And am I correct in saying it's more of a sort of a nervous system sort of function response to the stimulus that's being placed on your body rather than strength?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're seeing how the muscles react to the certain substance that we're introducing to the body. So that could be weakening a strong muscle. That could be strengthening a weak muscle. So obviously whenever there's pain, there's bound to be weak muscles. But oftentimes people don't realize that there's also strong muscles that can be weakened by certain things. So when we introduce these substances, if that weakens a muscle, that lets us know that that's likely causing irritation throughout the whole system. So when we find that and we give the person the the protocol to get rid of that irritation, whether they have to nix some substance or take an herb to support an organ. That's what we're going for. So it is exactly the name. It's the response to the substance rather than like finding out if your strength is any different.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating because, I mean, I think we were chatting about this earlier because I just went to Swedish last week and gave away 13 vials of my precious blood, which I felt very sort of like at loss for, you know, and then I worked all day and I felt not the best, right? It's a lot of blood, but they messed up my labs and, you know, they lost a lot of my information and And with the testing that you guys can do in a half an hour, you can both look at sort of our hormone levels, whether we have molds, fungus, candida, heavy metals, gut issues, all of these major internal systems. Plus, you could look at foods that are really negatively impacting our well-being. And it's I know we're not fully done my testing yet, but so far I'm fascinated. I mean, it was quick, it was effective, it was as a patient, you really knew when your muscle was not working anymore.
Yeah, and that's kind of the cool thing about the testing is like you really are trying to like fully resist, and like when you introduce a substance, like Lee was saying, that like your body does not like, your body's not responding to, or might, you know, be affecting your body in a negative way, that muscle does give way, and like you're trying to resist against it, and it just
doesn't work.
Goes.
And I know.
Because I'm trying to track through what does this look like in action, you
Well,
know, because
you
you're
have
just
to get
so
tested.
well it's like, so what do you do during a test or the screening? So it sounds like are you ingesting a substance?
No, you're not ingesting a substance.
So that's the most traditional way in applied kinesiology. Honestly, one of the more one of the more argued points was whether or not you should put substances on the tongue. Just because like your gustatory complex, the taste that your tongue has, that's nervous, that's neurological in like the grand scheme of things. So that taste, that flavor is actually a nervous impulse that tells your brain whether or not you like that food. So you crave certain foods because you want the nutrients that food provides, not because you crave that food's taste. That's what your brain thinks, and that's the most basic form, but realistically you're craving the nutrients that are associated with that flavor. But with this nutrition testing, the way that we're doing it nowadays is we're actually keeping the substance more so like right above the cranium on the top of the head, just because it's closest to the brain. That's obviously the biggest mass of nerves in the body is in your brain. So bringing that substance close to the brain, then seeing how maybe your shoulder reacts holding it to the side. If we press down on it, it should start as strong, and then if we add an irritant, it will weaken that muscle. So
interesting. And so the different irritants will actually cause that muscle. You can kind of see it in play for different people. The muscle function changes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And if you find a weak muscle, like say you can't get your rotator cuff to fire properly, you're unable to reach overhead without pain, it could just be that you're lacking some sort of substance, whether that is could be essential fatty acids like fish oils, it could be like vitamin A or vitamin E, it could be something very simple that your body's missing that's causing a very large issue, which ultimately with the rotator cuff we see a lot of issues when people are sick or run down mentally or stressed in general. So a lot of those things correlate with B vitamin deficiency or any of the other stuff that I just mentioned. So we know that like when we're under stress and when we're run down that we're depriving ourselves of nutrients. What modern medicine is starting to figure out now is that we can reintroduce that stuff more effectively, and I like this protocol to do that.
Yeah, and I really think I think for both of us really like kind of like the interplay of the whole system where it's, you know, Lee and I have had the testing done on ourselves. We've had certain herbs that we've, you know, been starting to take, and we've noticed a big change in like our overall well-being. And kind of the cool thing about it, because how many different things we're testing, like Lee was saying before, like the microbes, any of the like food insensitivities, like heavy metals, hormones. It really could be something like a microbe that is causing you to have some sort of food insensitivity or like some of your hormones out of balance or anything like that. So it's really a cool way to look at the system as a whole, like not just one system, right? Not just nutritional insensitivity, not just a microbe, not just a hormone, but looking at all of it and finding the herbs or the supplements that are going to best help your body respond to the stress and inflammation that you have going on because of that. And it's really kind of cool how the certain herbs will, like one of them you're taking for like a microbe or something like that, but that same herb is also going to help you with like a heavy metal, like excess heavy metals that you have or hormone deficiency that you have. Because what you're doing is you're looking at the system as a whole. It's not just one piece at a time.
Which is what we are, right?
Yeah.
We're a whole system.
Yeah.
And ultimately that herb's supporting the organ that's being That organ is deteriorating because of some stress. Oftentimes it's the liver. So we'll use the liver as an example. When you get a virus and you're sick, your liver has to fight off that virus, has to make more white blood cells, has to make more hormones to heat your body up so that it can pretty much kill all that stuff. So that liver is under stress now. So over years and years of stress, over years of sickness and whatnot, you're going to have that capacity for that organ to function. It's going to diminish. And that's not anything that you can argue. That's very well researched. And what these herbs do is they support the function of that organ. They normalize the function of the organ. So when you decrease the stress, you get rid of the irritant, and then you support the organ, you will become more healthy just from those two things alone.
Yeah.
And I think for the doubters among us, and I'm one of them, I'm very skeptical of all things. And I have seen this protocol correlate with lab work.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, just really seals the deal. Because it's not that we don't need lab work as well, right? Obviously, for certain things, we're going to need to incorporate lab work and our wonderful naturopathic community and everyone else, in our medical community. But as a starting point, I think this is just going to be an amazing service for our patients here. I'm really excited that you guys are bringing it aboard.
Yeah, no, and I think it's definitely important to be a little bit skeptical of anything at first, right? To make sure that it checks out and make sure that it works. I think that's a really good thing.
Always am.
But it's really cool, after we did this, after we learned the testing, went to the seminar, I did the testing on my wife. And what I found through the testing that I did on her correlated with blood work that she had done like a few weeks beforehand. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that for me was like a really just awesome sign where it's like, hey, this actually is showing up the way that it should. This is correlating to exactly what she had on an actual test, like a blood test. So
at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to find specifically what's in the blood by doing this type of testing.
No.
We're only going to be able to see what's irritating you and what's not.
Right.
So ultimately, if you have something that's more systemic of an issue, like a thyroid problem, you're going to go get your blood work either way. But this stuff could potentially help the system function better as a whole.
Well, and it's as I'm saying, it steers you in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So it gives you an idea that you have a hormone imbalance. Well, what is that? Well, as a menopausal woman, you probably want to get blood work done, but blood work is only just a picture of that second of that moment when the blood was drawn. Mm-hmm. So it's it's a difficult test anyway, but I think if we can steer people in the right direction of where their imbalances lie, that's just invaluable, because there's a lot to guess if we don't have a direction, mm-hmm. right? Especially we combine this testing with an excellent clinical history, an exam, which you're obviously both wonderful at, and you putting all those pieces together, you're going to get just a great deal of information for people's health and steering them and starting down that path of living a more optimal life.
Well, yeah, and the coolest thing about this is that it'll tell you things that are irritating you, and if you eliminate them for a short period of time, you can start to reintroduce them. You have to do that a little bit in moderation. Obviously, you don't want to bring yourself right back into reacting poorly. But just as a good story, I reacted really poorly to wheat, dairy, and caffeine.
Oh, I remember.
Same test. So I had to cut out baked goods, coffee, and other really good, delicious things like dairy and eggs. So I had cut all that stuff out. I cut out for 2 weeks. Tim retested me, and I was no longer sensitive to that stuff. And I'm still taking my herbs at this point, but now I'm feeling way better than I was 3 weeks ago, and I'm still taking the stuff that 3 weeks ago was irritating me. So you have to give it up a little bit for a little bit of time, but that short bit of, suffering, so to speak, will ultimately improve you and help you get into a little bit more impactful life, help you live a little bit more fully.
Yeah, and that's a good thing for people to realize is that, if we say that there's certain things you need to cut out for a little bit, it's not a forever thing most of the time. It's just your body's not reacting to that properly at that time. We need to give your body and your organs time to heal, time to, function better. And then once they are and your body's in a more healed state and you're functioning better overall, we can reintroduce these things, see how your body responds to it. And that's kind of the really cool thing about it too.
This in some ways reminds me of this kind of the difference between, say, clinical presentation. A patient shows up and they're experiencing a certain number of symptoms, and from observing those symptoms, talking to them, looking kind of what's going on, you can kind of come up with here's my hypothesis on what's potentially happening here based on how you're presenting. Then you do a deeper level of testing or screening, and that kind of paints a more detailed picture of what's happening within the system. And so what I really like about this is that it's a fast way to screen for some of those clinical presentations, meaning you're showing up, you're having some problems, you're having some series of issues that you might not even think of being interrelated. Because again, this stuff all is part of that secret manual of how your body functions that nobody gets handed when they come into this world, right? But it's like, oh, cool, here's a screen we can do that can give us a starting point to make some adjustments and to bring in some supporting elements, and let's roll with that for a few weeks, and it should demonstrate itself pretty quickly whether or not it's having a positive impact. And that's what I love about this. I'm a huge fan of naturopathic and blood testing and getting blood work done, but you can't always get into. I mean, it's like and blood testing over time, very expensive. I got a $7,500 bill from a blood testing. Now, I didn't pay it because it was ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
But my wife, I got naturopathic testing done, and my naturopath was like, we need these tests done, blah, 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 and this test isn't going to cost more than $250, which is already ridiculous just for that one test. The bill came back $7,500. My wife lost her mind. She freaked out on it. She's like, what is this? What did you do? You didn't even need this test. And I was like, don't worry. The doctor said we don't have to pay it. No, we didn't end up paying it. But I did drop the $250 on that test. And here's the deal. That, like to your point, was a section of time. And I don't even know, can I even tell you right now what benefit that test gave me, or did anything happen or change different from that? No, it didn't. What I love about this, it's quick, gives you some very precise and specific things you can implement immediately and make some immediate changes that then show up with in a short period of time. It's not like getting tested and then you get your test results back 6 weeks later, and then you get in to see your doctor 2 weeks after that, and so now it's been 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you do these things, and now what am I even here for? Yeah. I don't even remember why I came in because it's been so long. Yeah. This is very quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, we're bringing this into the clinic now. Dr. Tim and Dr. Lee are ready to work with some patients on this. And I think we decided that we'd gift a few.
It's a good idea.
Of these kits and of this testing protocol for patients. So for people who are excited and feel like this might be of a benefit, go ahead and give us a call.
Yeah, especially those people that have been told that they don't have issues, or that their issue is entirely in their brain.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think here's part of the testing too. So you've just been going through this. I want to go through it, and let's come back onto this topic in maybe a month and a half, and it would be great to hear kind of from our experiences what changed.
Let's do it.
And maybe we can, and then we'll get some more patients to go through this experience protocol, and we can gather some feedback, because this is definitely one of those things where I think it's great to test it out and try it yourself if you're at all interested.
Yeah.
It's worth doing.
Yeah, no, Lee and I really like the system a whole lot. That's why we're wanting to implement it. That's why we want to do it. We've seen great benefit from it. We know that other people can see great benefit from it. And we just really we've talked about it before, just how simple this system is. It's not complicated, right? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of logical sense. You're testing for things that are going to be affecting your body, real things that could be affecting your body in a big way. And even how you treat it is a very simple way too, right? It's just certain nutritional changes or certain dietary changes that you make. And the supplements that we prescribe for this are just simple herbs. That's all it is, right? It's nothing crazy that you're taking for this. It's very simple stuff that helps your body in a big way.
I love it. I can't wait to get into it. We'll report back on it. Keep your eyes peeled. And if it's something that you hear this and you're like, kind of fascinated, I kind of like to try things out. I like to be on the cutting edge. I'm ready. Then give us a call and we'll get you in. We'll take care of you and we'll get your feedback on how this is. Guys, thanks for sharing. I'm really excited for this program. Really excited to see what it goes, and excited to get my testing done.
Yeah.
Until the next show, take care, everyone, and we'll talk with you later.
Yeah. See you later.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.